We've been talking about state and local government, and we're this week focusing on local government, so I thought it might be a good time to look into the early history of New Brighton just a little bit. As you are aware of, last year was the centennial, there's a lot of newer information on here, and a lot of stuff kind of fits in nicely with things we've been talking about this past week. If you go hop into the Wayback Machine, before the arrival of Europeans, this area, western Pennsylvania in particular, up through the Great Lakes regions, was an Indian thoroughfare. You had different tribes and different Indian groups coming through the area, trading, hunting. Much of what is New Brighton today was hunting and trading grounds, and that extended up and down the rivers. Anyone that hunts around here would be able to tell you why. The Great Lakes Indians were around here, different Ohio River Indians, the Six Nations Confederacy, Six Nations of the Iroquois. There was European interest in the mid-1700s. As you recall, settlement along the east coast of the United States started in the 1600s, really, and gradually came westward. By the mid-1700s, you had both British and French groups sending expeditions out into this area, basically for fur trade, trading with Native Americans, and you had much of this area being fought over and actual battles in this area during the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War. So this was a big time hotspot in the area. A lot of battlefields, a lot of monuments have been erected to different leaders and different military leaders from that time. Pittsburgh, for example, named after William Pitt, used to be known as Fort Duquesne, and when it was under the control of the French. So you had a lot of history in this area, specifically colonial history. This area in particular, western Pennsylvania, was a flashpoint of the French and Indian War, really where it started, where it got heated. A lot of battles were fought here. You had the French coming down from Canada, laying claim to different areas in Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, into Canada, leaving lead plates that claimed the area in the name of the French king. They had forts that were built, Fort Le Boeuf, Fort Duquesne, that would become Pittsburgh, as I just said. And you also had the British sending out expeditions to scout the Indian presence and also French presence in the area. Eventually, these two forces clashed, and you had the French and Indian War. In this area, New Brighton in particular, one of the first settlers, or European settlers, was Reverend David Zeisberger, who was himself a missionary. He was converting, or trying to convert, Native Americans to Christianity. He ended up converting a large number of them, and they ended up calling themselves Moravians. They migrated from the down the Beaver River from Lawrence County, and set up camps along the river. They eventually settled along the falls of the Beaver River in what is modern-day New Brighton today. As far as the American government's concerned, after the American Revolution, you had different expeditions sent out here. This was still considered the wilderness territory. It was the gateway to the Midwest, the gateway to what was going to be the frontier. Fort McIntosh in Beaver was demolished in 1788, and a new fort was erected in New Brighton at the Blockhouse. And its purpose was pretty much to secure communications along the frontier and keep an eye on Native American movements in this area. Also protected settlers and farmers, protecting them from Indian attacks, and it was under the command of Colonel Josiah Harmer. Part of the blockhouse still exists today. If you go downtown, you can see it. Some of you may never have heard of this, the Fallston Massacre. Many of you have heard of Brady's Run Park. Well, Brady's Run Park is named for Colonel Samuel Brady. He was a Revolutionary War hero, and in the 1790s, he was sent to stop a number of Indian raids that had been occurring along the rivers in this area. Colonel Brady and his men happened upon a group of Indians in what would become Fallston. Didn't know who they were, so they ambushed them, killed a number of them, and the Indians were eventually revealed to be peaceful Moravians. This incident was condemned roundly on the frontier by both settlers and Indians alike. Colonel Brady ended up going to court for this, but he was later acquitted of all charges because one of the Indians that was testifying against him was taken out by Brady and his men. He was drunk and his testimony was thrown out. And we pretty much cover that here. The native reaction to this was bad. They felt cheated. So you had Brady was sent to quell Indian attacks against frontiersmen. As a result of what happened in the trial, the attacks increased, the raids on settlers increased, and eventually General Mad Anthony Wayne had to be sent to stop these uprisings and restore order to the frontier. Now, New Brighton specifically was part of the land that was divided up by the not the Continental Congress, but by the U.S. Congress to be paid to Continental Army soldiers in exchange for their depreciated Continental dollars that they were paid with during the war. The Continental dollars were worthless. So rather than giving them real money, they gave them land. And this was even more valuable than money because it accomplished a few goals. The U.S. government could settle this area. It allowed the colonies or the states then to expand, and these families would grow, settle the area, start new towns, and it would increase tax revenue coming into the government. Fallston was originally set up to be the town of New Brighton, but because of the frequent flooding, a lot of residents left Fallston and resettled on higher ground in New Brighton, where the town eventually would be started. The first permanent settlement was built by John Wolfe. He built a grist mill at the end of the 10th Street Bridge. You guys don't know where that is because it's not there anymore, but it's behind the 5th Street Deli where the scenic overlook is now. He built the first log cabin in New Brighton, and it was there for almost 100 years. David Townsend and the Townsend family is generally considered to be the founding family of New Brighton. The first brick home was built by the Townsend family. They bought Tract 93 and laid it out in different lots, and the families or people that came from Fallston or from wherever could buy these lots and start to build houses. And with the Townsends coming in is where you start to see the town becoming what it is today. Mayor Townsend, a relative of theirs, actually has a monument erected to him in the Grove Cemetery. Hopefully you guys will get to see that when we do our scavenger hunt. By 1838, the town of New Brighton is officially founded, and that's when it started. It got its charter then from the state. It was incorporated as a municipality in the state of Pennsylvania in 1838. Just to give you an idea of what New Brighton looked like in the past, this is a picture from the 1880s. You can see Fallston in the foreground and the town of New Brighton in the background. You can see the bridge here. Some factories, some workhouses, and you can see the town as it was many, many years ago. But the river still looks the same. And that's it.